when you change your environment you're living in, I feel like it often makes a huge impact on you, and it brings different opportunities and possibilities in your life.
I will start with this one, and I chose it because it's in my home university, and you can see that there's like this very specific artistic space, which is, I think, very looking same everywhere, and it's very characteristic for art schools, I think, and it's just a very safe space for me.
This wasn't like the happiest period of my life in particular, but I just went anyway, always seek for adventures. I used the thing for schnitzels for meat, because I have nothing in the apartment. It shows my capability of always finding my way, even if I don't have anything disposable.
This one is actually my self-portrait, and it's kind of hard to tell it's a person, but I like it that way because I think we don't know how we really look like.
I don't want any gender to ban my life or to restrict me anything, and I just feel like gender for me is not that important, no matter it's being a boy or being a girl, and I just want to be the person. It's no matter what gender it is.
And then that's actually not me, but it's the cigarettes warning, the graphics warning on the cigarettes pack that smoking harms your children. And it's also cigarettes from my hometown, and I often feel not quite energetic when I'm around people, but I still this is funny. I don't know.
So this is significant to me because I went on this Thanksgiving trip with this guy named Christian Shushock and Lucas Dunford. And Christian is this guy from West Virginia, and he's super into nature, and he has a lot of guns and stuff. So I went over to his place for Thanksgiving, and we went deer hunting.
Then the next photo was taken in Poland, in Katowice, which is the capital of Upper Silesia. This speaks volumes because when I'm comfortable with people, I used to fool around a lot. So this is actually what I'm doing here with Camilla. Then you can see a brutalist building, which is a very big part of my characteristics, as everybody knows me will tell you.
She had saved this little thing that she had sent me anonymously as part of a program before we knew each other, and then we met and became friends, and she saved this thing, and it's on her wall now, and so I thought it was cute.
I choose this picture because it's kind of moletao. That means in Cantonese that without the context it looks stupid.
A book and a DVD called Linnea and Monet's Garden. My name is Linnea, and I love Monet, and this was taken in the gift shop in Giverny. So I was Linnea in Monet's garden that day, and I thought it was very funny.
Here you can see some shadows from some people I'm hanging out with, and I think for me I quite easily adapt to people around me. I would say I'm a bit like a chameleon, so that's why I chose this picture. It's wherever I am, the people around me, I feel like they sort of change even my characteristics.
I love them, and I'm quite sure they love me as well.
I start to look more and more like my parents. I copy their characteristics, and the things I used to hate about them, I see myself, and I start to like actually the things they like to do, I start to like, so it's quite a scary thing, but it's true.
And it's actually, there's not even a picture that speaks about myself, it kind of speaks more about my family story, but I feel like this part is actually also a crucial part of myself, because this is the place here, on those two photos, that's the same place, just nearby my house, where I used to play a lot when I was a child. And I feel like this really, that's a place that actually shaped me.
And I chose it because there I am with my 3 best girls, my 2 younger sisters and my doggy again.
This is me and my dad, actually. This is me, and this is my dad. And we're just trying to test out the camera.
One day after finals, while I was biking along, I saw the skunk and I decided to turn it into a hat. And so I picked it up and brought it back to my dorm. And I skinned it outside my dorm. I washed it and then I brought it inside. I went to bed and then the fire alarm went off. I was like, fuck, like somebody's like smoked a bong again and like set off the fire alarm. So we all went outside. It was like cold. I was in my underwear. The fire department was there and then they like told us, all right, it's cool, go back inside. And I went to bed and then like 2 minutes later, these cops showed up at my door.
You know, whenever I get nostalgic, I have this image of me swimming and diving, and I love the color blue. It's just, I love it.
I don't know, people are just like undressed and like they're super relaxed, and I really like it.
It's like the time when I could really dress up like a psychopath and run on the streets, and like people look at me, I feel so freaking awkward, but that is so fun. I love that feeling.
This is the second picture. I have a motorcycle crash in my hometown. I choose this picture because it represents me the most, like a bit reckless, and I still kind of like trying to find something interesting or trying to get the most fun out of something, maybe miserable or like something sad.
Hey, are you the skunk guy? And I was like, I mean, yeah, I just got a skunk, I guess. And they were like, there's this girl on the 3rd floor that smelled what she thought was a natural gas leak and pulled the fire alarm. So we have to like check your room. They confiscated the skunk, and then it was considered like arson, sort of, because like I set off the fire alarm technically. And so I was almost kicked out of school.
And this is a whole mess of crap here, which also can describe me. I just, you know, like, I like tables. I like what you can find on tables when you're hanging out, and then you put everything on the table, and I think it tells a good story.
We're just like all a little bit tipsy. We are playing tombola after the Christmas lunch. And I don't know, I like this picture because this is like every year, like at least 2 or 3 times a year, we just gather and eat and drink. There is like limoncello and wine. So we just, you know, and we just eat a lot, and it's just funny.
This woman here, the older one, is a professor on the University of Oxford, a history professor. That's me here from behind, and those are all my friends and the sister of the professor, who's an architect. And we were having one of the best conversations I ever had in my life, which was, as I already told you, like an aha moment where I actually saw what I want to do with myself, and that I want to have those kind of conversations all the time with as many people as possible.
Tomato, because, you know, tomatoes are just so good. And vodka, I think this here is vodka, which I also love, not gonna lie, I love vodka.
And then this kind of also represents like the trauma I've been through in my home country, and then, but still I enjoy the times there a lot.
I feel that in my country, people still have some stereotype or some bias toward the people who didn't fit in the society. I'm lucky that I have my parents to support me, because they are not the kind of typical parents, the parents in my country, and they're willing to give me a lot of freedom and let me to find my own true self.
I guess the concept of home country is very complicated, because this kind of like combines 3 of my identities, which are French, Swedish, which is my name, and also, you know, growing up in the US where I had these books.
Those photos being taken in the same place, it kind of just shows the shift in the family, how times change and how people die.
I always think about the logic of the universe, or even the natural environments, or how is that related to my person, because just feels like even people seems like we are so big for ourselves, But actually, compared to the whole world or compared to the whole universe, we just a really unimportant dust.
So you're not giving us an answer? No, of course not. I'm more mysterious.
I'm not good with making decisions, you know, to point at one thing and say, that's it. So I don't know. And also, I am from so many different cities at the same time that I don't know where I feel like home.
Where is the center of the world? The place, the star, wait. The star where I imagine Michael Jackson die.
Where's the center of the world for me? It's me. Sorry, I sound a bit arrogant, but I think like we should live and find the meanings for living for ourselves. And I think that's how things work.
In a way, inside our head.
Probably home, which is also in my country. So Latvia, salas pils novads, Dolas sala, Liepati. That's my home.
Because he is the man who always lead me to think and always lead me to do something that is positive and it will be nice to the world. So I will always imagine him is over there and my world will always surrounding him.
All we perceive, all we live, is in our brains. So that's all we see. Like if we don't experience anything, then that's all we know.
Where I grew up, which was the one in the countryside, close to city, but in the same time nowhere, which is very cool.
Let's say Split is the center of the world. Okay, yeah, I can do with that.
For me, the center of the world would be where my family are. Because they were the only one who could love you unconditionally, I think. They were the only one in the world.
Yes, that is the city where my mom is from. I've never actually lived there, but I spent a lot of time there. And it has great history, great culture, and I think it's a very good representation of mentality and way of living and tradition. And also I'm very connected to that part of the family, so I always connected with my grandparents, especially my grandpa, who I adore.
It was like, where's the center of the world for you, right? Yeah, and I'd say it's Chattanooga, Tennessee for me, because it's kind of the accumulation of like the South, I think, and what it's become, because it has this strange history where there's this the Tennessee River running through it, and there's these two mountains on either side where the rich all live nowadays, but about, I don't know, say like 60 years ago, they were all living in the valley like everyone else, but it became like very polluted. The rich, to get out of like the smog, went up into the mountains, and during that time was also like integration of like public schools. To counteract that, these rich white people built these private schools. I went to one of those private schools, and it's right beside the river, and then there's this highway that goes on one side of it, and then this huge gate on the other. It's just like super fancy. On the outside of that is almost primarily like African American descendants. Probably one of the most like impoverished places in like Tennessee. That's Chattanooga, the center of my world.
It would have to be where my mom and my grandma are, which is in Oakland, California. I don't know what I would do without them, which is terrifying. And I always check in with them. So, but it would probably be wherever they go to, you know. If my mom moves away somewhere, takes my grandma with her, you know. it'd probably just be there. So
I think it's at the place where I'm at currently. So right now it would be Prague, but I think if I would live somewhere else, it would be over there, because what I say, like I mimic a lot of characteristics and things of the people around me, so I automatically identify also with the place I'm like living.
Even a couple of days ago, I would answer that it's my house, my family house, because always when I was thinking about going somewhere or moving or going for university somewhere, I was counting the distance from this point. So I guess like on a map, I would call it the center of the world for me. Then it's cool, obviously the maps were always showing Poland in the center. So it was kind of embroidered in my brain that this is the center of the world for me. But right now I can feel it kind of getting more scattered, while I'm not there, I'm living here right now. And then I'll be living in another place that is also not there. And when family members go away, like my sisters are also moving out. One of my sisters is right now in South America, and I kind of, after the phone talks I had with her, I could feel that the center of the world is becoming more scattered, and that maybe it's not only this one place, although this is the place that used to be the only answer for this question.
I feel like sometimes where you come from can also explain why you find some things pretty, and also why you don't find things pretty, you know. It's just the simple life that for a long time I wanted to escape, and once I escaped it, I realized that I want it back.
Do I feel from my country? I feel I'm from Hong Kong, yeah.
Yeah. I think the second I open my mouth, everyone's like, she's American. So I have no choice but to feel very American, which is fine, yeah.
So the sense of belonging, just a kind of protection to myself.
I honestly don't identify that much with it. I identify more with like the stand-out-ish, like hippies, you know, just because like my parents are like artists and I've kind of fallen into that as well. But not necessarily like an American or something. It's so big, I don't know. There's too much going on.
I feel like I'm more a stereotypical Dalmatian rather than I am like, but that's the part of Croatia, so I guess I am a Croatian.
Well, I used to be very anti-Polish. And I still remember when I was in Rome and I met a guy from there, and he was, I think I was 17, and he was just yapping on about how cosmopolitic I am, that I am a true citizen of the world, and I really like the theme of being a citizen of the world.
Yes, I feel Italian, but not always.
Yes, I feel very much.
I feel like I'm quite a typical Hong Kongese, because Hong Kong is quite known for being mean among Asians. Like, we're the meanest guys, we're the meanest people from Asia.
It would be too much of a privileged thing for me to say that I don't identify with it, because there are too many things I like about my country.
I think that's what we call collective memories, right? And even we don't know each other, but maybe somehow we could feel the same.
I think a lot of the complications come from very strict ideas of like what a national identity is, you know?
I am Polish, but actually I'm Silesian, which is I would call it an ethnic minority in Poland, although there's a lot of us. It's a region in Poland, Silesia. Like the whole generation of Silesian people that I'm also in, that were very ashamed of being Silesian in the beginning, because the children at school were laughing at the language, and because most people were Polish and nobody was speaking Silesian, and the language sounds funny for people, or just that we are combined with like the mining community, which is obviously not very eco-friendly, and it was kind of shameful to be Silesian. And I read a book that was actually about that, and that was pointing out all the tragic story about the tragic history behind Silesian people during the Soviet times when we were very strongly Polonized. And it just kind of made me very rebellious against the Polishness that I was brought up into. And it made me really want to dig more into the heritage that was almost completely washed out from me because of the Polish school. So I'm very glad that my parents spoke Silesian to me in my home, at least.
I've lived in the US and I spent my summers in Sweden because my dad's Swedish. And I've lived in France. And so there's French on my mom's side, but it's not like France, the country, it's like French Creole. So, you know, colonialism in the US. And then I've also obviously lived in Prague and the UK. So just like the concept of a home country is very complicated, both by where I've physically lived and where I've called home, but also issues of nationality, ethnicity, and obviously also race.
Probably just like shame is like a big part of it, or like disappointment. It's very, you know, like conservative and, you know, a lot of like racism still, and yeah, you know, it's definitely like a big like red state. It's very like Republican.
I feel like I'm the only Latvian always, everywhere. So that's maybe a shame, but maybe it's also good because sometimes it makes me feel special also. I can be the one who is then informing about where is exactly the country and can teach something and so on.
Even though some people aren't, I think a lot of people I know are always very curious and really open to communicate in like international language so that everyone can be included. So I think people are also inclusive and just quite progressive in a way that I enjoy it. Yeah, and I really feel safe, comfortable, and at home.
I don't think it's a special place that I can talk about like, oh, I'm missing that and that, it's a special place. It's not a special place, but I guess it's just my place, so that's why I like it.
I don't think it's that complicated. You know, you're from where you're from, everyone has very different lived experiences, and it's hard to whittle that down into like one expectation of identity or nation, so.
I remember watching a film by Eric Romer, and there's a quote that goes like, one often find himself or herself, like the true self of them, when they're in a foreign place without the burdens and the rules from their hometown. And that's where you know like who you really are.